Welcome to the 2020 James Beard Awards, presented by Capital One, in association with Chicago O'Hare and Midway International Airports. We would like to thank our premier sponsors: All Clad Metal Crafters, American Airlines, the official airline of the James Beard Foundation, Lavazza, and San Pellegrino Sparkling Natural Mineral Water. And thanks to our supporting sponsors: National Restaurant Association, Schooner Bay Salmon, Valrhona, and White Claw Hard Seltzer. Our gala reception sponsors are Ecolab, Front of the House, and Kendall College. Additional support for the James Beard Awards is provided by Chateau d'Esclans, Verterra Dinnerware, and our official broadcast partner is Intersport. Special thanks to our proud hosts at Choose Chicago and the Illinois Restaurant Association. And now, please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of the James Beard Foundation, Claire Reichenbach.
Good evening and welcome to everyone joining us from far and wide tonight. I'm here at the James Beard House in New York City, the heart of the Foundation's operations for more than 3 decades now. One of Mr. Beard's favorite adages was, "Food is our common ground." And so his house was established as a place for chefs, food lovers, and many more in our food system to gather, cook, teach, debate, learn, and connect through food. So it seems fitting to be here tonight as our culinary community comes together during these incredibly tough times. Tonight marks the 30th anniversary of the James Beard Awards. And the form of this year's celebration will obviously be very different from previous years, but we come together for the same purpose: to recognize extraordinary talent and excellence in our community. Tonight we break with tradition in more ways than one. Rather than announce individual winners, we convene this evening to honor the enormous accomplishments of all our nominees in the chef and restaurant categories. You'll hear from many of them throughout this broadcast, as well as from the recipients of the marquee awards, including Leadership and Humanitarian of the Year. We recognize this shift has come as a disappointment to many, but we invite each of you to consider the formidable strength and capacity that our 130 nominees exert as a group. And that is something truly to celebrate. In the wake of COVID-19, the American food and restaurant community is in the grip of an historic crisis. The scale of loss of lives, livelihood, businesses, security, and dreams is quite staggering. And with so many friends and colleagues on the brink struggling for survival, we offer these awards as a source of unity and support without diminishing the incredible achievements of any of the nominees. Independent restaurants are the heart of every city, town, and village across America, and indeed the world. We cannot underestimate the social, economic, and cultural value they represent. For over 30 years, the James Beard Foundation has celebrated the best of those restaurants, showcased culinary excellence, and supported chefs and restaurateurs to use their voices for positive change. It is our collective duty to do all we can to help restaurants through this. In March, as the pandemic shuttered business after business, we threw ourselves into helping our community. We formed our Food and Beverage Industry Relief Fund to issue emergency grants and partnered with the Independent Restaurant Coalition to lobby Congress for deeper support. We launched Open for Good, the Foundation's campaign to help independent restaurants survive this crisis, rebuild back better and stronger, and thrive for the long term. And these efforts has taken on particular urgency and significance in the midst of Black Lives Matter and the movement for racial justice. This point in history demands action from this organization and from the food community as a whole. We've committed ourselves to making changes that bring everything we do across all our platforms, including these awards, into alignment with this mission: to help rebuild a diverse, equitable, sustainable restaurant industry where all work is valued equally and compensated fairly, and no one is denied recognition or access to opportunity because of their gender, sexuality, immigration status, or the color of their skin. We'll be undertaking a review of the award selection process to drive greater inclusivity and equal representation. And the 2021 James Beard Awards will look different too. We've suspended the nominating process while the industry remains in partial shutdown. Instead, we will use the imprimatur of the awards to honour people in our community who have risen to the challenge of this moment with such courage, generosity, creativity, and brilliance. For that celebration, we hope to return in person to the great city of Chicago. COVID has put many partnerships to the test, and we wish to express our deepest appreciation to Chicago for standing by us and with us as we grow. Our gratitude to everyone who helps us on this path, including all those participating in tonight's ceremony and our generous corporate partners, many of whom are facing their own challenges, but have stood firm and committed themselves to supporting the culinary community throughout this crisis. Thank you. You've contributed so much to make this night possible. I also want to recognise another group of people who have made tonight possible, beginning with our dedicated trustees, led by Fred Siegel, and our Foundation's all-volunteer awards committees, led by James Beard Foundation's award winner and trustee, Anne Quattrano. And with special thanks to the Restaurant Chef Subcommittee, led by co-chairs Bill Addison and Deborah First. But before I hand proceedings over to our MC in Chicago, the wonderful and talented Ji Suk Yi, I want to say that we all, as we sit here with the losses we have sustained and facing the challenges ahead, it is understandable to feel defeated. But we are not. The pandemic exposed the fragility of the restaurant industry as it was, but has also opened the door to what it might become. Food and restaurant workers are a passionate, diverse, and powerful community. You have shown leadership and selflessness through the worst of this crisis. And that is why I believe if we dedicate ourselves every day to the pursuit of justice and equity in this community, we can change this country for good. So thank you for being with us, and please enjoy the evening ahead.
This is where you burn down and you ascend from your own ashes.
You know, the hope is that we can all come out of this as better restaurants, as a better industry.
By tearing down this industry, it's allowing us to see what we need to change.
I know it can be hard and there's moments of anxiety, losing hope, but you know, there's always a shoulder and there's always someone there that is there to provide support.
I just want to remind us who we are as a people. We're the ones that turn to the stranger and make them friends. And we're the ones that when it gets hard, we're still there. We're still serving. We're still inviting them in.
And now we've kind of gone through something together. We showed up together to help each other out. And it was like the most trying 2 months that we've ever faced as a business. But yet there was this one thing, the connection to our community that I could cling to.
So my hope is that we come back stronger than ever.
Fight like hell for your employees, fight like hell for yourselves. May your businesses survive. May we emerge after the election to a more beautiful world that I myself know is possible.
Si se puede. Yes, we can, yes, we are, and yes, we will.
Greetings from the beautiful city of Chicago. I'm Ji Suk Yi, and I have to say, it's a special pleasure to be here representing my hometown. To everyone watching around the country and the world, welcome to this year's very special James Beard Awards. Throughout tonight's ceremony, we'll be highlighting the individuals and organizations honored with awards for leadership, humanitarian, and lifetime achievement. We'll also be hearing from this year's distinguished restaurant and chef nominees and honorees from around the country and right here in Chicago. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that we're not the first people to love and cherish this place. Chicago's name comes from the Algonquin language, meaning wild onion. Seems fitting for our city's love affair with food. The city is built on the traditional homeland of several Native American First Nation tribes, including the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, also home to the Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sauk, and Fox tribes. The first non-Indigenous settler was Haitian-born from French and African descent, Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable. Du Sable was a successful tradesman. And a city that started off as a water transit hub evolved into an industrial metropolis, surviving the Great Fire, laying claim to the first skyscraper, and boasting ingenuity that reversed the flow of the river. Chicago's been enriched historically by people who moved here from other countries and from within our country, as in the Great Migration. And Chicago is still a destination where people from many different backgrounds, with broad shoulders and unique cultural pride, meet in the city of neighborhoods to share our food and stories. And we are continually enriched by the diversity of our people and their ongoing history here. That's evident in our diverse and vibrant restaurant culture. Right now, I want to give some love to all my friends in the food industry here in Chicago, caring for their communities, keeping their colleagues and employees healthy, and doing the work of building back better. They, along with the food and restaurant workers everywhere, deserve their own round of applause. Now, there are about 2 million of you watching right now, and we encourage each and every one of you to join the conversation tonight on Twitter. I want to hear from all of you, and our partners at Valrhona want to remind you to join the conversation by tweeting and tagging #JBFA and #OpenForGood. One of the running themes of tonight's ceremony is the idea of leadership. Many people may be asking themselves what real leadership looks like. It's an important question. Since 2011, the foundation has been honoring visionaries who make our food system more sustainable, more healthful, and more equitable with their annual leadership awards. We've woven the stories of this year's 5 leadership award winners throughout tonight's broadcast. The foundation is proud to support their missions with a grant of $10,000 each to continue their good work. The annual leadership awards are proudly presented in association with Deloitte. And so, it's my special honor to start us off with Operation Spring Plan, based in Henderson, North Carolina. It's a small but mighty organization. Their mission, to keep Black family farmers on their land and build support to sustain them for generations to come. Enjoy their story.
Operation Spring Plan from the beginning was just 2 people with an idea and a community of people with needs. We work to assist people of color and small family farmers to stay on their land by creating ways of financing, by market development, and creating an environmentally safe food product while creating ways for the sustainability of the small family farmer.
Operation Spring Plan came along and made me aware that we could do other markets, get into other programs. That really kept me on the farm, because if it hadn't been for Operation Spring Plan, I wouldn't be farming today.
I have visited many communities that do not have a good source of food. The major grocery stores has gone 15 to 20 miles from the community.
And so the only place to get food in this corridor is either this gas station here and this fast food restaurant.
I've been working for the last 4 or 5 years on food justice without Dorothy Barker. And with Dorothy Barker, everything is beginning to happen.
And so they have no access to nutritious food either. And we know how dire that is for the elderly, which is why we have to bring the farmers market to this area.
Operation Spring Plan has made a huge difference for the Bountiful Land Farmers Market, because she literally has put us in touch with Black and brown farmers across the state who can supply the different markets that we're trying to establish.
Like this little spot right here always grows stuff pretty good though.
Yeah.
When our farmers grow a quality product, that's good food. When they deliver it to our consumers, that means our consumers are consuming the very best and freshest product that they can get. There are knowledges there that need to be captured from this generation to the next.
It's very important to be able to step up and to say, I want to manage this farm. I want to keep this as a legacy. I want to keep this in our family.
It's an important movement. It's like we're circling back to the good old days when people cared about those things and each other. And at the head of that line is Dorothy leading us into that promised land.
Receiving the James Beard Award means to me that someone along the way has been tracking the work that I've done, and they want to see me continue this work. When I receive this award, I'll be able to cover more territories. I'll be able to help more families. I'll be able to expand on our mission.
Congratulations once again to Dorothy and Philip Barker and everyone at Operation Spring Plant. The first of 5 Leadership Award winners we'll pay tribute to this evening. Next up, I want to welcome the James Beard Foundation's Vice President of Community, Colleen Vincent, who is joined by one of last year's Leadership Award winners, Sean Sherman. Sean is a co-founder of the Sous Chef and Natives Indigenous Food Lab in Minneapolis. He's a revolutionary advocate for Indigenous food, culture, and land rights. And they're going to tell you about some exciting developments at the James Beard Foundation.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
Hey, Colleen. How's it going?
It's pretty good. But I want to tell everyone that Sean and I have a huge announcement to make about a new initiative at the James Beard Foundation to support Black and Indigenous leaders in the culinary world. But before we share the good news, Sean, I was wondering if you could tell the people a little bit more about your mission with the Sous Chef, since it relates.
For sure. So for a little background, I grew up on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota, and I've been working restaurants ever since I was 13 years old. And after quite a few years in the industry, I got to a point where I realized the almost complete absence of Indigenous foods anywhere, despite being on Indigenous land everywhere you happen to be in the US. So I started researching about what my direct ancestors are eating and how they were processing foods. And today we're looking at a better understanding of implementing this Indigenous food knowledge into today's world and the importance of creating and supporting regional and community-based food systems using both wild and domesticated foods and trying to be role models by serving only healthy Indigenous foods. So growing up on a reservation where we had no restaurants and only one grocery store to serve the area the size of Connecticut, I had very little access to healthy foods at all, let alone Indigenous foods. And that's something that we're really hoping to change.
Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, you know, food on the reservations has historically been distributed by federal agencies like the Commodity Food Program because of treaties made long ago. And I'm going to go ahead and say that without apology that it's pretty devoid of culture or nutrition, with many Indigenous communities still dependent on government food programs with food offerings that are high in salts, sugars, excessive carbs. It's easy to see why some of our Indigenous communities are suffering from such high rates of foodborne illnesses.
This is actually similar to what Black Americans experience with food deserts, you know, areas where community disinvestment leaves people without options for healthy food. So in either case, it's not that people don't know or don't remember or don't want to eat better. It's that their food, like so much of their lives, has been colonized and marginalized.
Exactly. And that's what we were thinking when we founded the Sous Chef. So just like much of our Indigenous history, the food knowledge and cooking practices developed by hundreds of tribes over thousands of years on American soil have been left out of the nation's autobiography completely. And that's crazy, you know? So having access to this understanding and true understanding of American histories, including horrific atrocities that happened against us as Indigenous peoples not that long ago, is really an important step to healing our communities and the generations of Indigenous peoples that have endured so much historical and racial trauma. So we're reclaiming and sharing the knowledge of our elders, we're training young chefs, and we envision a future where we hope to eventually see regional Indigenous focused food businesses where everybody gets to experience this amazing cultural and regional diversity that sits across the whole country.
Flowing from everything we've been talking about and all the events we're living through right now, the James Beard Foundation is taking on the wealth gap that has kept Black and Indigenous chefs from reaching parity with their white counterparts, particularly in, but not limited to, fine dining.
Absolutely. So effective today, we are announcing the opening of the James Beard Foundation Food and Beverage Fund for Black and Indigenous Americans in recognition of the contributions that these two communities have made to American food and its traditions. And I'm very proud to sit on the leadership community for this exciting new initiative.
And the fund will provide financial resources for food and beverage businesses that are majority owned by Black or Indigenous people. These grants are part of our Open for Good campaign and our commitment to lifting up Black and Indigenous business owners in our industry for good. So we urge everyone to read more about the fund right now at jamesbeard.org.
All right, well, that was fun. And I love giving good news, especially in today's world right now.
especially these days. So I want to thank you for your leadership and contribution, Sean, and thank you again for joining me here tonight.
All right, Pilamaye, and thank you.
Here in Chicago, hospitality starts at our airports. Chicago's independent restaurants and the people who power them are essential to our airport community. These are the people who greet you the moment you land. We take their safety and yours seriously, which is why we've worked closely with federal, state, and local partners to keep everyone healthy. The Chicago Department of Aviation wants to thank its frontline heroes from around the world and those right here in Chicago. O'Hare and Midway International Airports are proud to sponsor the 2020 James Beard Awards and the Foundation's efforts to strengthen and rebuild the restaurant community. There's no doubt this is a historic challenge, but we know the travel and hospitality industry can get through this together. As the gateway to Chicago, we're here when you're ready and look forward to seeing you in our airports soon.
Hello again, and thank you for watching the James Beard Awards from Chicago, live on Twitter. For anyone just joining us, I hope the reason you're running late is that you were out picking up, takeout, and supporting one of your favorite local restaurants. We'd love for you to give them a shout out on Twitter by tagging #JBFA, #OpenForGood. Actually, let's take a look right now at the conversation from our friends and great partners at Kendall College. Kendall College at National Louis University would like to congratulate the 2020 James Beard Award nominees for their skills and talent that continue to inspire the restaurant industry. Congratulations on such an amazing accomplishment. Thanks, Kendall. There's no greater time for the industry to come together and celebrate its resilience, excellence, and creativity than now. We're thrilled to be a part of the Beard Foundation's event honoring the hard work and bright future of the industry. And of course, that's from the National Restaurant Association. And here's a tweet from Roxanne at Notes of Current. Love that handle. Operation Spring Plant, amazing work. I would love to learn more. Thanks for all those tweets, keep them coming. I'm about to introduce you to two of Chicago's talented chefs and stellar members of our local restaurant community. Eric Williams is the owner-chef of Virtue. His much-lauded Hyde Park establishment is one of 8 restaurant and chef nominees we celebrate from the Great Lakes region tonight. Maya Camille Broussard is the founder-chef of Justice of the Pies, a mobile bakery specializing in everything sweet or savory with a crust. But they each stand for more than just excellent food. Maya Camille founded her business with a mission that's threefold: to be a steward for fairness and equality, to educate young people who reside in Chicago's food-insecure neighborhoods, and to advocate for disability rights. Eric is well known as a mentor to young chefs of color and for his involvement with anti-racist initiatives in business and the arts. Both have answered the call to help feed frontline workers and the hungry during this pandemic. Over to you, Chefs Eric and Maya.
Thank you, Ji. I'm so proud to be here tonight with my esteemed friend and colleague, Maya Camille, representing the great city of Chicago. There has never been a more challenging time in the culinary industry. We have an incredibly supportive community here, but like so many food and restaurant workers around the country, we are struggling. We are here along with many chefs tonight to tell you a bit about our experience. And we hope those watching around the country will be inspired to support local restaurants like ours through this difficult time.
The pandemic has been, and it still is, an interesting and strange time to be a food entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship typically looks like a duck on the water, gracefully and effortlessly gliding across the pond while frantically paddling beneath the surface. Food entrepreneurship during this pandemic sometimes feels like a duck that turned upside down with his feet flailing in the air. The work that we do and love to share our food with the people is already hard work. The pandemic tests our limits, our creativity, and our resolve. I persevere because I know this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to be in the kitchen. I have a clear understanding that this is my work. And my team has been incredible. They completely understand And they're hanging in there with us because they see my transparency and they know that this pandemic is only a hiccup. What about you, Chef Eric? What has it been like for you?
We're challenged on every side. I must add, though, that I don't know a chef worth their salt that is not able to think on their feet, that doesn't possess the ability to problem solve and to manage a high level of stress. I'd say that we're dealing with all of that as a result of the pandemic and some. However, I'm very hopeful that we'll all get through this on the other side with our restaurants intact and with our communities in place.
I read about your participation at Chicago Gourmet. How was your dinner in Blac honoring the memory of George Floyd?
It was a very needed moment. We chose to focus on George Floyd's life and how it was tragically taken. We spent 8 minutes and 46 seconds in the dark with only candlelight as a visual so that people could feel the gravity of what that 8 minutes and 46 seconds may have been. I'm very hopeful that we will express a greater level of empathy, that those that were inspired and moved in that moment will have the opportunity to be active.
You know, the sculptor Louis Bourgeois once said, an artist can show things that other people are terrified of expressing. And I love how you use your culinary arts to comment on the current fraught nature of politics and race relations. As an artist in the foodscape, I am using my work to contribute to eradicating food insecurity for youth living in Chicago's lower income neighborhoods that are affected by food affordability. I'm passionate about ending generational emotional trauma that surrounds food, or rather the lack thereof. We have an opportunity and a platform to raise awareness and to advocate for change.
Let us use that platform right now. The restaurant industry employs 16 million people, and that accounts for 4% of the total GDP. And these restaurants need your help. Support the local restaurants in your community.
Yes, and support restaurants that make your community better and stronger. Restaurants are hubs for socialization, and now more than ever, we need the restaurant community in order to hold the fabric of the people together. Recognize that good food also means treating your employees fairly and with equity. Create a welcoming and inclusive environment for all people, regardless of what you look like, who you marry, whether you were born a man or if you were lucky enough to be born a woman. Support the advancement of diverse voices and respectfully allow people of color to take up space.
As a person of color, I endorse that message.
And good food could also mean a slice of strawberry basil key lime pie. Thank you and enjoy the James Beard Awards.
We hope to see you all back in Chicago soon.
Local restaurants really show the character and the personality and the vibe of a certain community.
It's an essential part of the human connection.
These are the places that support the small farms, the small wineries, the small businesses that help contain and sustain our beautiful ecosystem, which is the restaurant industry.
Without places like these, neighborhoods are just rows of houses. There's no color and context. There's no energy and vibrancy that food and drinking places will bring.
As soon as we can be back, will be the happiest time of our life again. Yes, indeed.
Thank you all for joining us for the James Beard Awards, live on Twitter. We have an amazingly talented and tight-knit restaurant community here in Chicago, and getting out to support your local restaurants is one of the most delicious forms of activism there is. It was great to hear from Chicago's own chefs, Maya Camille Broussard and Eric Williams, as well as some of the other 2020 nominees that are making a difference in their own communities. Now, we want to keep hearing from you out there around the country and the world. Make sure to join in on the conversation on Twitter, tagging #JBFA and #OpenForGood. Let's take a look at some of that conversation right now. Here's a message from our partners at Chateau d'Esclans.
Greetings from Chateau d'Esclans. Beautiful day here in Provence. You can see our vineyards, harvest is just over. Sending our best to all the team at James Beard, and congratulations to the honorees and the nominees of 2020. As we say in France, see you soon, à bientôt, and hopefully all live together in 21. Cheers.
Cheers to you, Paul. And here's to the future as well. And I want to read a couple of tweets right now. Oh, this is from Monica Ng. Proud to be watching the Beard Foundation Awards tonight, celebrating African American and Native American farmers, among others tonight. Thanks, Monica. And here's one from Ermina. JBFA intro is a good example of genuine inclusion. Glad we can skip the performative fluff. Also, how stunning is OMG? Ermina, oh my God. Thank you. Thanks. It's a true honor to be here. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce a woman who is cutting a new path in the wine industry. Tahera Habibi is the founder and owner of the Hue Society, a multifaceted organization dedicated to the education and inclusion of women and people of color in the culture and business of wine. Welcome, Tahera.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's exciting to be with you this evening. Like most people, I've been spending more time at home these days, more time than I've ever spent at home. I'm sure you understand. The main thing I'm missing is the physical presence of other people, plus the conversations I used to have with adults. My 3-year-old is amazing, but the subjects that we get into are kind of limited. So the adult I've been forging a deeper connection with, in the meantime, is me. I've had time to really think about where I am in my career and what I want to do next to push the culture forward, because this is a unique time for change. Being a Black sommelier, I've always dealt with bias, implicit and explicit. No matter how successful I became, there seemed to be a new barrier on the horizon. Absorbing bias, deflecting it, and doing the emotional work to process it seems to be considered paying your dues for people of color in this business, although we never seem to be paid in full. Well, I'm finished with that approach. Rather than continue to try to gain acceptance and validation from traditional temples of wine, I am building new structures that center on the experiences and desires of people like me. That's why Hue Society was born. I'm not alone. There are more wineries, labels, breweries, distilleries owned or run by Black and brown people than ever before. But the struggle for equality in this job is so much bigger than that. Reverence does not equal equality. Until there are Black and brown people in senior leadership positions in wine and food media, in financial institutions that underwrite our industry, and in ownership positions in restaurants and hotels and resorts, we won't change our culture. That's why it is such a pleasure for me to announce the recipient of our second leadership award. Blac Cena in San Francisco is a nonprofit that works to solve problems of equity and business ownership for women, immigrants, and people of color. One small call to action before I go. A majority of the businesses Blac Cena supports have lost all or much of their revenue in the pandemic. So if you're in the Bay Area, think about treating someone you love to a lunch delivery or two. Here's their story.
Blac Cena is an incubator kitchen specifically working with low-income and very low-income women entrepreneurs who are launching, growing, and formalizing food businesses.
So I got my validation first in my community. People would come to my house, buy a plate of dinner, whatever I was selling that Friday.
In Mexico, we just bring a table outside of home and just doing what you have to do. When I came here, I just came with my eyes closed. I didn't know anything, even my English. They asked me, do you have a business plan? I didn't know what was that word. I opened my restaurant in 2012. I don't think it was possible without Blac Cena.
The informal marketplace is a vibrant space in and of itself. It's one that a lot of cooks and eaters love. But it's a really vulnerable position for people to be in. Universally, women are receiving about 4% of available investment capital for their businesses, and you can imagine how impossible it is to start a business with no capital.
When you look at the statistics on who run food businesses or who are executive chefs, it's like every other industry that it's largely dominated by men. And we need to give women the opportunity to balance out those numbers. And it has to be intentional so that we can really knock down those barriers to entry and allow more women and more people of color access to market.
I have a 2-piece with braised greens, white meat, and then 1 single breast to go. Thank you. We'll call that number, okay? I opened up my own restaurant, Mini Bell Soul Movement, in Emeryville, California in 2018. Back when I came into the culinary field, it was hard for a woman, and let alone a woman of color, to get a position in the kitchen. In joining La Cocina, it was them really taking me by the hand, step by step, on formalizing my food business. Everything from a vision board to access capital, La Cocina helped really put in place the vision that I saw my business going and where I wanted it to go.
We've had 55 businesses graduate from La Cocina, and we have 33 businesses that are currently in the incubator. More equitable investments across our communities will ultimately result in a more vibrant food economy, less homogenous restaurant industry, a more delicious cityscape for all of us. You come out of La Cocina with the sense that there's a better world possible, and it's going to be led by people who run these restaurants.
It was a path that was created for me and meant for me to walk down, which is why I am where I am now.
As the proud sponsor of the James Beard Outstanding Hospitality Award, at American Airlines, we know the importance of taking care of our customers and communities. So we're committed to helping you return to traveling to your favorite destinations and reconnecting with family and friends. We know that you can't wait to finally get a taste of that extraordinary restaurant, to watch that amazing chef, not on video, but in action from across the room, and to replace that virtual happy hour with a real one. And like you, we're eager to help the restaurant industry rebuild. The American Airlines team has always been dedicated to caring for you on life's journey and connecting you with the world and to a world of experiences. We've partnered with medical experts to make sure that our airplanes are safe and our cleaning practices are state-of-the-art so that you can kick back, relax, and dream about that next delicious meal. And we stand together with the restaurant industry in helping you return to doing just that. American Airlines looks forward to working with the James Beard Foundation to bringing people together again. So please join us.
Hello. In case you don't recognize me, I'm Ji Suk Yi, and I'm proud to be hosting the James Beard Awards from Chicago. I've seen how much care our local restaurant workers are taking to keep their customers safe, and I want to remind everyone out there to return the favor. The James Beard Foundation partnered with the Aspen Institute to develop a diner's code of conduct so that you can dine with confidence. By following these simple rules, you can keep restaurant workers safe and keep your favorite establishments open for good. First, if you're not feeling well, stay home and be sure to reschedule. Second, wear a mask and keep your social distance when you're entering, checking in, or visiting the restroom. Be courteous and respectful, always, to your servers when they ask you to follow the rules. And this one isn't on the official code of conduct, but I'm adding it. Tip your waitstaff generously. They are frontline workers, so show your appreciation. Thank you. Our next presenter knows a thing or two about great hospitality. She's here with us to announce the Humanitarian of the Year award, but she's also here to accept a James Beard Foundation award herself. It will be her 8th. In 1992, she was the first woman to win Outstanding Chef and Outstanding Restaurant, the Humanitarian of the Year, Leadership, Lifetime Achievement Award, and several others followed. Tonight, we honor her restaurant, Chez Panisse, with the Design Icon Award, making her the culinary equivalent of an EGOT. That's showbiz speak for Emmy, Golden Globe, Oscar, and Tony. It's an honor and pleasure to have her with us. Please welcome chef, restaurateur, author, and activist, Alice Waters.
I can't tell you how much it means to me to be given this James Beard Foundation Design Award. I've known James Beard for a very long time, and he came to Chez Denise early in the 70s. And he said after he ate dinner, "This isn't a restaurant. This isn't a real restaurant. This is like going to somebody's house for dinner." And I just loved that validation because, in fact, I wanted it to feel that way. I didn't want it to feel designed and disconnected from the whole experience of eating that one menu. I wanted people to be able to ask for seconds or to walk into the kitchen. And so I thought about that a lot and wanted it to feel like you were in Berkeley, California. And so we had the recycled redwood beams and very reminiscent of Julia Morgan. But why I'm here tonight really is because I am giving the award, the Humanitarian 2020 Award, to an organization that I really believe in. It's called Zero Foodprint. And I know Anthony and Karen, and I've known them for a long time, and I really believe in what they're doing because they're connecting the dots between the food we're eating and climate change. And they know that it's the farmers who take care of the land, who are making the compost, who are bringing that carbon down into the ground. And we have been supporting the regenerative organic farmers for almost 45 years. And it is the greatest pleasure to be connected to the local farmers, ranchers, fishermen. It's about food security. It's about taste. And this organization is absolutely my number one choice for getting to the issue, making that connection, and knowing the threat of climate. This could be the silver lining of this pandemic. And I want to thank the James Beard Foundation for supporting this organization, committing itself by giving them the Humanitarian Award. Thank you so much.
It was maybe 5 years ago that we went and visited John Wick. And he told us that the way that we manage plants and could actually drop carbon out of the air and rebuild carbon in the soil.
Life comes from life, and ultimately we build healthy soils from which we create abundant food, fuel, fiber, and flora, while also creating conditions for more of that to be produced. It's a pretty cool thing.
And I remember we were leaving the ranch and Anthony said, "Well, I'm glad climate change is solved."
We started Zero Foodprint in 2015 to help restaurants become part of the solution to the climate crisis. You know, there's basically like unhealthy soil, subsidies for bad farming. But what's amazing is that we can actually solve the whole problem and create better food in the process.
We have two ways for restaurants to be members. One way is to add a 1% charge that diners contribute that goes into healthy soil projects.
Or they can contribute going carbon neutral. So far, the restaurants have helped take as much carbon out of the atmosphere as not burning 2 million gallons of gas.
When we first joined Zero Foodprint, we were kind of given two paths that we could take, and we actually decided to do both of them. It's easy to be sustainable, but for us, it was more about how can we be renewable. So we're not just trying to conserve, but we're trying to regenerate.
The problem is that the current food system and food economy doesn't really allow farmers to like charge an extra $1 just because they planted a bunch of trees or cover crops. Zero Foodprint is helping to provide those grants to farmers so they can take carbon out of the atmosphere and benefit all of us.
I think the grants from Zero Foodprint allow farmers to make some choices that they ordinarily wouldn't be able to make. We found that we were offsetting carbon emissions of about 5,000 cars a year. It was about an acre that we were able to do that on. Our family's 6 generations here now on the same farm. We need to farm with the far future in mind. It's really exciting to think that we're making positive change.
The food system is pretty f***ed up, but we can totally un*** it. In the US, the restaurant industry is $863 billion. So if every restaurant were sending 1% back, that would provide $8 billion a year to help farmers implement regenerative agriculture practices and really change the food system. And I think our whole theory of change is good food for good, that diners can go to a restaurant, have a great meal, seamless experience, and that just as part of that experience, 1% is going to help farmers reverse climate change and improve the food system. On behalf of Karen, Tiffany, Leo, and myself, I'd like to give a heartfelt thank you to the James Beard Foundation for this recognition. It's an honor to have your endorsement as we build this Table to Farm movement to help solve the climate crisis. And I'd also like to say thanks for your incredible impact work, both improving the food system and preserving our industry at this critical moment. As we all strive toward a prosperous new normal, we look forward to working with you to scale regenerative agriculture. Lastly, and most importantly, I would like to thank all the Zero Foodprint members who have led the way on climate solutions. This award is really for you guys and gals, and we look forward to continuing this work in the future. And to any future members, a quick message. The science is official. We can restore the climate. We can eat our way out of the climate crisis with better food. We look forward to working with you too.
This is a year when so much has come into focus at once, and everyone is called to take notice and act. And for the first time ever, the James Beard Foundation is able to offer a $20,000 grant in support of Zero Foodprint's work, thanks to the new Michael Phillips Humanitarian Fund that was recently established by longtime JBF trustee Michael Phillips. Thank you, Michael, for your leadership. Don't forget, you're watching the 2020 James Beard Awards presented by Capital One live on Twitter. We want you to join in on the conversation, and you can do that by tweeting and tagging #JBFA and #OpenForGood. Thank you to our partners at Valrhona for that reminder. Now it's time to recognize our next Leadership Award winner. Like Zero Foodprint, our next honoree has been a pioneer in taking action to preserve our earth and its oceans. Founded in 2007 on the Geechee Dock in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, Abundant Seafood has a simple but profoundly important mission: to keep ocean life abundant and balanced for future generations.
Commercial fishermen, we're one of the last of the great hunters. How many people go out there and have to go and hunt for their food, and that's what we do. Abundant Seafood is based here in Charleston, South Carolina. Fishing sustainability is important to me because it's a public resource we're fishing on. It doesn't belong to me. I'm out there fishing for the public.
In the early 80s, there was destructive gear was allowed for a couple of years. It was a time before sort of our science was good enough. You could have a great fishing trip, but it was too effective and it was destructive to the environment.
On my fishing vessel, the way we fish, there's no nets. Everything's done by hook and line, and you feel the bite and you bring the fish up, and that's how we fish.
Sustainability means fishing with the ecosystem, really being involved in the management process and looking towards the future so that our 3-generation fishing family can perhaps be a many more generation fishing family.
We've also gone this extra step of creating a community-supported fishery program because there wasn't a way for local people here in Charleston to get access to the really fresh fish. And so we've been able to get our fish not only in the hands of the chefs at the restaurants, but in the hands of the people that live in our community straight off of our boat. All right, get what you want. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thanks, Nell.
Abundant Seafood is one of our primary seafood purveyors here in Charleston, but what makes them a little bit different is that Mark's one of the few captains that can sell directly to restaurants. When Mark and I started to work together, it's just about the same time people started to talk about sustainable seafood, and here I had this direct line to so much information. Such beautiful product, which ultimately as chefs also give you not only inspiration, but a competitive edge. At the end of the day, product itself speaks volumes.
Getting an honor like the James Beard Award for Leadership, our voice will now go beyond just Charleston, go beyond just the commercial fishing world. There's so many Marks up and down the East Coast and on the West Coast that are struggling every day to stay in this, and that are fighting really hard and doing the right thing.
We're not in this for a short term. I want my grandkids to be able to go and eat good food. There's a lot of us out there that want to go and see the longevity of the fish stocks to go and continue.
As the proud sponsor of the James Beard Regional Awards, Capital One knows restaurants provide so much more than a good meal. They provide memories that last a lifetime, offer a sense of community, and employ millions of people who make those things possible. While your favorite restaurants might not be open right now, and the way we enjoy dining and entertainment has changed, Capital One's commitment to the restaurant industry remains the same. Whether you're redeeming miles for delivery or for takeout from a neighborhood favorite, Capital One is dedicated to helping you support your local restaurants, and they're proud of their partnership with the James Beard Foundation and the exclusive access it provides cardholders. Capital One stands with the entire industry and the people who make it special. It's important to continue to savor the moments, memories, and meals that enrich our cities and our lives, and help keep all restaurants open for good.
Good evening, everyone. At a moment when the world seems to be so divided, I'm very thankful for this moment to come together to celebrate American food and cooking in all its multifaceted wonder. In my 20+ years in this country, I've actually stopped trying to figure out what is and isn't American food. It seems that American cuisine reflects the country itself in its entirety, a mixture of everything and continuously changing. Flavors and ingredients from everywhere, sometimes striving hard for authenticity, sharing and passing on things that have been inherited to us and that need to be treasured. Other times blending at the edges, bending to incorporate from these or a nod to that, and always creating new things. American food is an expression of what has been one of this country's greatest strengths, its openness to the world, its confluence of cultures, from First Nations people to Mexican Jewish immigrants like me. I had a grandfather who fled the Polish pogroms at the turn of the 20th century, and a grandmother who fled Austria from the horrors of the Holocaust. And here I am, a Mexican, with my entire family still rooted in Mexico, but I live in Washington, D.C., with my growing Mexican-American boys living in a Spanglish world. And it's not like immigrants just throw delicious recipes into the proverbial melting pot and move on. Across the country, immigrants are the backbone of the workforce, in the open fields and in restaurants. If you live in LA or New York, about 40% of the restaurant meals you order are prepared or delivered by undocumented immigrants. Most of the food we consume even when we cook it at home, comes to us from the hands of people, documented and undocumented, who work behind the scenes and who contribute enormously to this country. And now COVID has knocked out the livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of immigrants in and out of their restaurants, whose labor has fed us and continues to feed us as food lovers, food writers, food professionals, simply as humans. Let's not only acknowledge their work and their struggles, but figure out how to do more about it. Before I move on to announcing our next award winners, let's think about all the people that give so much to the food and restaurant industry and beyond, and consider how each one of us can take action. As one of the many trans-border, trans-cultural individuals that are part of the American population, it is an honor as a Mexican Jewish immigrant to present these year's America's Classic Awards. They represent part of the wonderful and delicious way that cultures coalesce in American cuisine, each holding a beloved and historic place in their communities. May they continue to inspire us and feed us for decades more to come. Here are their stories.
They started in 1905. It's one of the oldest Black establishments in Arkansas.
My grandfather came to this country in 1906. He came with nothing. 11 years after he came here, he was able to open up a restaurant.
My grandfather purchased what was then the New Exchange Hotel in 1928.
We've been here since 1955. You know, it's 6.5 decades later, and here we are, you know.
My mother opened the restaurant in November of 1985.
I opened up the Oriental Kitchenette in 1987.
Ordering 2 tenders.
I believe we were the first people, at least on the East Coast, to sell fresh chicken tender way before anybody else, even back in 1974.
We're very famous for the barbacoa. Of course, the barbacoa or the Mexican barbecue. With mesquite wood, you cook it the old-fashioned way, the ranch way. You put it in the pit, put the sheet metal on top, we put dirt on the top to insulate it, and it'll stay overnight.
I don't have a menu because I cook what I want from a daily basis. Call the fish market, say, do you have any fish for me? And they'll say, sure, I'll bring it over.
Morning, Life.
What you got for me?
Oh, you're gonna be happy. The buffalo ribs are very rare, and I only sell the buffalo ribs because they're different from catfish. The grain of the meat is a little coarse, and it gives them a different flavor.
At the core of what we do is our family-style chicken dinner.
There's something about passing platters of food among the people that you're dining with. It's all about family, it's all about sharing, it's all about getting together.
We're not trying to be the next big thing. We're just trying to stay true to what we know how to do. We really haven't changed anything, and we really focus on delivering consistency every time you walk through those doors.
We feel very blessed, a great and deep sense of pride for my mom and for what she accomplished. If my mom was around to receive the James Beard Award, she'd be walking high, man. She was 4'9", she'd be walking at 5 feet for sure.
The significance of receiving an award like this, it makes all the effort and hard work. It just puts us in a class of restaurants that makes us very proud.
You grow up in something and, you know, it goes in your blood and it's there and you have a passion for it. I'm very honored to be part of the James Beard American Classic Award.
Never even in my wildest dreams would I even thought about winning something like that. I come from a small kitchen. It's not a fancy kitchen, but there's a lot of love in this kitchen. We give a lot of love to all our customers. And so to get that reward, it's pretty amazing.
They always tell me they feel like they're at home away from home. It's nothing fancy here. I think that's the reason they like it so well. This is an honor for me to be getting this. I told my wife, I said, we must be doing something right.
It was just a tremendous honor. I don't know, it's probably to tears. Because you're being recognized for something that you worked so hard your whole life for. it means that all the hard work has really paid off, and it just means so much to us.
Restaurants grouped together, the ones that stayed open with their purveyors and some of their customers, to start feeding people out of their pockets. We started doing that day one of the COVID crisis.
We created a foundation called Heart of the House. And what that's allowed us to do is help bridge the gap for our team members as they've sort of gone through this pandemic. It's been an opportunity for us to give back to our team members when they've needed it the most.
We're not just a restaurant, we are part of a community of people who have helped each other and grown even closer because we leaned on each other more than we ever have before.
Hello again, everybody. You're watching the James Beard Awards presented by Capital One, live from Chicago. Seeing those America's classics, it just really warms my heart. So touching. Always makes me want to get out on the road and try them all. If you're hungry to get out and taste America, the James Beard Foundation is hosting a nationwide virtual dining experience on Sunday, October 18th. The James Beard Foundation's Taste America, presented by Capital One, will bring food lovers and chefs together in 20 cities for dinner and a show, all enjoyed from the comforts of your home. How easy is that? Check out more details at jamesbeard.org, and if your city is participating, it's a great chance to support a local restaurant. I just want to say, even though I'm here in Chicago, social distancing with our awesome technical team in the James Beard Awards headquarters, I'm feeling connected to everyone out there. The tweets are rolling in, so appreciate it. Let's take a look at the Twitter conversation, courtesy of our partners at White Claw. There we go. This is from Seth, JBFA, live in the restaurant Apocalypse. Here's to making it through and recovery sooner rather than later. Oh. This is from Marissa, enjoying a Silver Queen feast while watching JBFA. Oh my gosh, I wish I could see a picture of that, Marissa. Okay, and this is from Paula. Ooh, looking cute, colleague Hall. Oh my goodness, I think that's VP of Community, Colleen Vincent. Great interview with Sean, by the way, earlier. Thank you for all of those tweets, really appreciate it. It's my pleasure now to welcome another powerful woman from our culinary community to announce our next Leadership Award. A barrier breaker in her own right, she has taken a stand for fairness and equality in the workplace and justice in the streets and the halls of power. Please welcome Chef Ann Kim.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all safe and in good health. Many years ago, my parents made the difficult decision to move our family from Korea to America so that my sister and I could define our own destinies. Like most poor immigrant parents, they made immense sacrifices and worked multiple jobs to put food on the table and secure our futures. When I took home the prize for Best Chef Midwest at the James Beard Awards last year, I saw it as a testament to my parents' efforts. I believed then, as I believe now, that hard work, commitment, and perseverance can lead to great things like defying norms and breaking glass ceilings. But I also know that this is not true for all immigrants any more than it's true for everyone born American. Our chances are still defined less by what we do than who we are. The devastating events of this year have brought that truth sharply into focus. The pandemic endangers everyone, but it threatens already vulnerable populations the most. The police can pull anyone over, but if your skin is black or brown, you are more likely to be harmed in the encounter. The unrest that engulfed my city of Minneapolis after the killing of George Floyd was and is an uprising against this fundamental injustice. Our food industry, unfortunately, is not exempt from these injustices. Like the rest of society, we are at a crossroads, but this is our choice to make. And as a chef, business owner, and leader, and as my parents' daughter, I choose change. One of the most important things that I can do right now is to raise my voice in support of those who are working to define their own destinies defying norms, and fighting for equality. Which is why it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next Leadership Award winner. Community to Community is an organization that has been fighting for the rights of farm workers for decades, especially women, to empower and advocate for themselves. Their work is more important than ever. Here's their story.
I pretty much worked in the fields every chance that there was work available in the fields from the time I was 10 years old until in my early 20s. I think as a farm worker that I knew something wasn't right, but I think that the leap is when you decide something can be done about it. Community to Community was founded as a women-led organization to create the opportunity for farm workers to create change. From the very beginning, our biggest goal was to create a political environment so that if farm workers wanted to, they could form a labor union. The other one is by developing a farm worker-owned farming operation so that people can see what it looks like to have farm workers farm, to lead themselves, to say, this is what we believe how food should be produced. This is what it should look like.
My experience as a farm worker when I was a child, I did not enjoy it. I feel like it was important for me to become involved with this work, to educate my people about the injustices they face. If C2C didn't exist, I believe that farm workers would struggle to have access to things that we provide them now, especially with the pandemic.
In the wake of this pandemic, it became really clear to us right away that we were going to be in trouble with the farm worker community. Somebody had gotten sick. There hadn't been any social distancing being enforced. Some of the workers didn't have masks. And as they demanded more safety precautions, they were threatened with the fact that they were essential workers, and essential workers that had no choice but to work. And I think that that's why the workers finally decided, the heck with it, this is too dangerous. Our families are at risk, we are at risk, and they walked out on strike. I think that the workers are becoming quickly leaders in the area for worker protections in the COVID-19 area. The James Beard Foundation, in giving me this award, is not so much about me. I'm just a voice.
It means a lot for C2C to receive this award because it brings exposure to what's actually happening, the reality of farm workers. It brings awareness to our continuous struggle. Rosalinda is deserving of this award because she's a strong woman. She's a great example for our community. She's a leader that creates other leaders.
This is what hope is really about. Community to Community is about creating change, but the change has to be created and led by and sustained by us. And that's who we are.
Lavazza is the proud sponsor of the James Beard Foundation Outstanding Pastry Chef Award. We salute the chefs who become master of the craft, creating delicious breads and beautiful desserts that bring joy to so many and make the industry a more vibrant place. And as a society, we really use a little joy right now. It's no secret that this year has been a challenging one. Here at Lavazza, we made it our priority to support independent restaurants and bakeries in every way we can, like donating coffee to the establishments serving their communities and our first responders. Lavazza sees the James Beard Foundation as a partner in supporting the culinary industry and stands united with James Beard Foundation and pastry chefs across the country, helping to make their communities a more beautiful, delicious, and equal for all.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Questlove, and I'm here to honor my friend, this year's Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Dr. Jessica B. Harris. Jessica is an amazing figure whose work is instrumental in capturing and communicating the history of food culture of the African diaspora, which means that it's instrumental in communicating the history of all food culture. As a culinary historian, educator, author, and curator, She has explored this world for close to 5 decades, and her cookbooks, 12 to date, have a prismatic effect on our understanding of who we are. When she shines a light on a dish or an ingredient, you see it more color, more detail, and with more texture than that you knew ever existed. Dr. Harris's devotion to illuminating history extends to more than just the food. She makes a point of giving credit to the African American cooks, the butchers, the bakers, the house servants, the field slaves, the maids, the farm workers who in one way or another raised the food in America, cooked it, served it, and cleaned it up. Some of those figures have been unseen and unsung. She sees them and her work sings their praises. I mean, I could go on forever about Dr. Harris's life and legacy, but forever is a mighty long time, so here's more of her story.
In Ghana, there are a number of ideograms, and there is one that is about the principle of Sankofa. It is a bird, but the bird is looking back. And the importance of Sankofa is know where you've been so you'll know where you're going. My name is Jessica Harris. I have been working as a food historian, as someone tracing the food of the African diaspora for maybe not 50 years, but probably 35 to 40 of those 50 years.
Thank you very much.
My parents were extraordinary. I'm an only child. They sent me to the United Nations International School. I was the first non-UN child to go to the school, and as such, it made me a citizen of the world. I got started as a journalist probably in the early 1970s. It was the era of the Black arts movement in New York. Many years later, the first culinary book that I wrote was called Hot Stuff, a cookbook in praise of the piquant. Hot Stuff became the first step on the journey.
One of the things that's so interesting about studying about food is that it connects with absolutely everything. I think that if you understand where food comes from, you respect it more, you honor it more. It's really important for people to understand the enormous influence that African food traditions have had.
African cooking has changed the world in any number of ways. You're dealing with enslavement, people who were at the bottom of the food chain, the people who were growing the food, who were harvesting it, preparing it, serving it for centuries. That's who was doing much of the hemisphere's cooking. Your history is on the plate. Food is identity. So why do I do it? Because somebody has to.
When I sort of turned the corner to accept my history and culture, it was Jessica's books that I turned to. And I get a little emotional about it because there's so much that I realized I didn't know. And the way Jessica shares this information and draws you in is something that goes right into your heart.
I think that my family grounded me in us in such a way that I could look beyond the personal us to a more global us. I am thrilled at being a lifetime awardee. However, if I may remove myself from the personal aspect of it, I think what it also signals is the beginning of an acknowledgement of the extraordinary culinary legacy that it has been my singular pleasure to spend the better part of 40 years writing about. I think that that legacy is something that we are only beginning to acknowledge, to examine, and beginning to thank. I want to thank the James Beard Foundation for this singular honor, and through me, for honoring those about whom I've spent more than half a century writing. I'll use the first part of my scant time thanking those who got me to this point. My parents, Jesse and Rhoda Harris, my editors, past and present, Judy Kern, Sydney Miner, Pam Honig,
Bill LeBlond, and Kathy Belden. My agents, I've only had 2, Carol Abel and Susan Ginsburg. And my readers, Lord knows I wish I'd had more of you. So to those of you who have read my books, thank you. It is paradoxical that I should be receiving the James Beard Lifetime Achievement Award this year. It is paradoxical indeed that I'd get the award in a year when an international pandemic has sent us all, metaphorically, to our rooms to think about it in a cosmic reset that is a combination punishment and blessing. The cosmos has forced us to think about ourselves in new ways, in creative ways, in ways that can work to eliminate the ills that we have too long ignored and allowed to exist in our flawed system. While the list of ills is long, at the top is the problematic nature of the system itself. The hospitality sector, and restaurants are a huge part of it, is based on service, which all too often is based on inequality and inequity. In this country, we must also factor in that for more than 200 years, much service was about enslavement. Following that, it was about disenfranchisement. Yesteryear's enslaved have been transformed into the Black and brown people of today who still form the unpaid underpinnings of the industry. The equation has changed slightly, but the facts remain the same, that the disparity of income and the lack of gratitude are woefully similar. The few who do succeed and make it to the top find themselves in precarious positions as well, undercapitalized and powerless. As the French might say, plus ça change, plus ça reste la même chose. The more things change, the more they stay the same. So, at this moment, when we have been forced to rethink the direction of our industry, it is time to truly use the cosmic reset to reset our agenda. Let's come together at this crossroads in history to reset the nation's table and make sure that there are places at it for all. Let us reset the table with an eye to and an awareness of past transgressions and future possibilities. Let us reset the table. Let us think of the people that I have spent the lifetime for which I am getting this award this evening writing about. Let us think of their descendants in our kitchens, our dining rooms, or our takeout windows, and in the back and front of house with their mops and brooms or bustin' suds as dishwashers. Let us thank them appropriately, pay them decent wages on which they can not simply survive, but thrive, and honor them in the dignity of their work. Let's dedicate what will be the rebirth of our industry to that reset. It's time for that. In fact, it's past time. Thank you so much for this award, and thank you for your time.
Our industry is an industry made up of a fabric of people that know how to work hard, know how to work with really small margins, and know how to work with adversity.
The enthusiasm for and empowerment that it's given people has been pretty amazing to watch. And for me, I mean, that's what cooking's all about.
It's inspiring to see the person you work next to just internalize all this pressure and stress and produce something that makes people happy.
I appreciate everyone who is continuing to do their thing and continuing to feed and nourish people, and I'm there right alongside you, and just keep on keeping on.
We are the restaurant people, we are the fighter, and we will get through this. Trust me, we will.
As a reminder, we love that for you to stay engaged with the 2020 James Beard Awards broadcast by tweeting us using #JBFA and #OpenForGood. Let's take a look at some of that interaction courtesy of our partners at Schooner Bay Salmon. Replying to Beard Foundation, Capital One, enjoying ceremony with our Barrio Cafe takeout. I want a picture of that too. This is from Adam. Replying to Zero Foodprint, helped create a system that let farmers pool the equivalent of 2 million gallons of gas emissions out of the atmosphere. That's incredible. Give them all of the JBFA, hashtag open for good. And this is from @Vicksburg2736, replying to Zender, so proud of our hometown favorites. Oh yes. And this is from @LHRDST1, hashtag open for good. Look forward to bringing friends and family who visit Chicago to restaurants. Absolutely. And here's one from Jamila. I choose change. She's quoting Chef Ann Kim. Fantastic. Thank you so much to Jamila and everybody that tweeted in. Many of tonight's nominees and honorees have distinguished themselves not just for excellent food, but for excellent kindness. The worst of times can bring out the best in people. The winner of our final leadership award is an Atlanta-based organization dedicated to breaking the cycle of youth incarceration. Gangstas to Growers promises new skills, job opportunities, and a healthy serving of kindness. They're growing the future block by block. Take a look.
The truest form of freedom is being able to sustain yourself. It's a part of our culture. For me, this is the birthright, and this is ultimately freedom.
Gangstas to Growers is an agribusiness training program for formerly incarcerated youth. The mission is to end the cycle of poverty within our community, to provide a space of healing, to help support a Black-run food system, and to end recidivism in our communities.
Before I got involved with Gangstas to Growers, I was in the streets. I was incarcerated in the middle of 2015, and the experience, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
We have young people with their brains still forming, locked in a place that's not offering any types of therapy for the generational cycles of trauma that they've been through. So now we see folks that are just yearning for love and empowerment.
The neighborhood prostitute came to me and she said, in a neighborhood of death, this garden is life. And that actually took me to tears. There's life here, there's tons of life. A lot of times people let me know that the first time they seen a sunflower was in this garden.
I joined Gangstas to Growers in 2016. I learned people skills. I learned seeding, growing, harvesting, composting. It has taught me that I can grow food myself because I've seen it done. I have power.
When we developed the program, we knew that we needed to make a product. To create real generational wealth, we have to produce things. Oh, look at y'all. Oh my God, I can't take it. Y'all made me so proud.
The sauce is the boss.
The hot sauce is called Sweet Soul. What I learned from making the hot sauce is that actually cutting up the ingredients and doing every step, it makes the food better. The people love that when you tell them that you actually making it yourself.
I'm just really grateful for Abby, Gangstas to Growers, and y'all coming here because y'all an example right now.
Right.
Miss Abby deserves the James Beard Award because she'll try to lead you in the right direction and help you no matter what. I know this because I've experienced this.
To me, the greatest seed that can ever be planted is the seed in the minds of a youth. Abby is really on the front lines and she's really doing this work.
Gangstas to Growers is saying that everyone is worthy of love, knowledge, and economic empowerment. Our goal is self-sufficiency, and James Beard Award is putting us right on that track.
As a proud sponsor of the James Beard Foundation Awards for Rising Star Chef of the Year and Outstanding Restaurant, San Pellegrino has always sought to serve as an integral member of the food world. We are so honored to be part of tonight's event. Our mission is to be a source of progress within the culinary community. By partnering with both established legends and today's brightest rising stars, we have used our many platforms to champion shared values of mentorship and representation that we know are so important to you as well. In response to the COVID-19 crisis, San Pellegrino has lent its support to many industry organizations. The brand was a founding partner and contributed $1 million to create the James Beard Relief Fund and helped to fundraise over $4.7 million for independent restaurants in need across the country. And yet we recognize our work is far from over. In the months and years ahead, San Pellegrino remains committed to all of you. We have launched a global Support Restaurants initiative, including a tangible recovery plan to provide financial relief and to also help reimagine a sustainable future for the industry. We would not be here today if it weren't for the crucial contributions of the chef community, and we stand side by side with you and the restaurant industry in this time of need.
You're watching the James Beard Awards live from Chicago. In prior years, we would be moving on at this point to the final, most anticipated award of the evening, the James Beard Award for Outstanding Chef, presented by All Clad Metal Crafters. Instead, the foundation has convened a roundtable discussion about the new meaning of excellence in the culinary world, moderated by food writer and cookbook author Gail Simmons, with 2019 Best Chef Great Lakes Award winners Beverly Kim and Johnny Clark, 2019 Rising Star Chef Kwame Onawachi, and James Beard Foundation trustee Chef Tanya Holland.
Welcome, chefs. Welcome, everyone. Thank you especially to Kwame, Tanya, Beverly, and Johnny for joining me and engaging in this important conversation today. It is a conversation meant to discuss what it means to be a great chef today in this very charged moment in our nation's history, and also for the future. The last several years, but especially the last several months, I think, have really made everyone take a hard, long look at their businesses, their roles as leaders, and to think about the very definition of what it means to be a great chef today. And to know that that definition is evolving. So I think this is a great time and a great forum to talk about it. Kwame, let's start with you. What do you think, as a chef, people in positions of power in our restaurant industry can do right now to help create a more inclusive environment in kitchens around the country?
Well, Gail, that's a great question. I think for me, I think a lot of people that are in those positions of power need to look inside themselves at what they can be doing to diversifying their networks around them. You know, if their networks around them aren't very diverse, then their dollars aren't going to go to a diverse crowd. I think a lot of these questions, I've answered a lot of these questions on panels, or I've been asked questions like this. And I think these questions need to go to those people that are in the positions of power. You know, I think people that have the means to provide capital, people that can provide the means to break barriers within an industry. You know, the people that go golfing with their accountants and their bankers. You know, those are the people that have the power to change the industry. And it's really, are they willing to give opportunities to people that don't look like them? Are they willing to be uncomfortable for a second so the inaudible can have a voice? You know, and I think that's really what it's going to take.
That is an extraordinary exercise that I think can be applied to so many parts, not just of our industry, but of so many industries, actually. Beverly and Johnny, I'd love to hear from you about this. What can restaurants do to create and articulate their unique value and the role that they play in their local community, especially at such a difficult time for restaurants to do what they do best?
I grew up as an immigrant and sort of not really feeling confident about Korean food in the society. It was always looked at as something different or like something to be ashamed of, but it was something that I truly loved. And I'm part of this opening Parachute, which is a Korean American restaurant, helped us be a gateway to opening your mind to Chicago, our local community, that Korean food doesn't necessarily have to be in this box. And I think that was very important to diversifying kind of the social climate of Chicago, where I was growing up thinking it was a second-class culture and it's not part of American culture, it's a foreign thing. And I think it was very important for me to be a gateway, to have the restaurant be a gateway. And so we're the place where people celebrate, people share, and put their differences aside and can come and break bread. Even though like we were barely breaking even during this pandemic, it felt really good to help our frontline workers and cook for the local, hospital, and give to the local senior citizen community, Korean American community. And we're continuing to think of ways we can give back to our community, and especially during the protests and the Black Lives Matter brought a lot of attention to using our platform to talk about these issues, and as well as the inequities between genders, so we're definitely, I think people look to restaurants, believe it or not, for a lot of, they see us as leaders, and in the community for a lot of the social justice and change and opening up their minds. So I think we're so important.
Beautiful. Agreed. And I mean, you all certainly are leaders. We believe it. We need it now more than ever. Tanya, did you want to add anything to that question before I move on?
As far as the role of the community, I mean, there's, I have people in my community who are just like, we have to keep you here. What can we do? What can we do more of? Because it's so significant, particularly in Oakland, California, but in any community, to have a Black-owned restaurant, a Black-owned business. The day after the movement was our highest sales day ever, even before COVID. And that just goes to show you how committed people were to just showing how important we are, And I even had Ta-Nehisi Coates with his dad in the restaurant last year, and his dad, who is a Black Panther, looked around and said, we go all over the country and we don't see a lot of us owning restaurants that look like this. And I know this, and I've known this for decades, and it's just, we need more of this, and we need access in order to do that. But this is so essential to creating community, to breaking down barriers, to have a third space for people to meet. And as these guys said, we're looked at as leaders. We are leaders in the community. We are, showing people that it shouldn't matter what you look like. You should have an opportunity to create something if that's what you desire to do, a business, and it should be able to be viable. And yeah.
Absolutely. Were there anyone else, Beverly and Johnny or Kwame, who want to add something about like a specific challenge of the past year and a solution within your specific restaurant that you think might be unique or helpful to talk about?
I think it's a really sticky situation. I think,
to say the least.
To say the least. And sometimes it feels like there's no hope, because honestly, I think that we need, as restaurant owners, we can't take care of our family at home. We can't take care of our family in our restaurants, our employees. We struggle every day to take care of ourselves. It's like no one's getting taken care of. If diners really need to be paying at least double what they're paying now, in order for us to take care of our staff adequately. But then, then now you're faced with if you did that, you're faced with the situation. Now you've just blocked out a whole massive group of people that can no longer eat at your restaurant or couldn't anyways. It just made it that much further from them ever attaining, the opportunity to sit in a restaurant and eat. So it's just like, it feels like there's nowhere to go. We're stuck in this nasty middle spot that is it's a really ugly place to be. And I think at times it can be very defeating, but I think we really have to figure something out. And
well, I know I'm simplifying here too, but I think a lot of change has to come far above the restaurant diner conversation, right? A lot of it has to come from the cost of food being lowered for chefs to be able to charge the amounts that you're charging for it, the simple cost of food, right? That is in many ways dictated by government subsidies and agricultural conversations at the highest levels of government, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of say something to the point that Bev and Johnny were mentioning, that if you're a leader or seen as a leader, but you're under-resourced and you're unsupported, it's hard to hold up, to just keep going, because you can't hold it all. And the people expect you to, the community does, your employees do, and we don't get the same level of empathy, once it's like they say, it's lonely at the top.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, my last year, I left my restaurant that I built up, and one of the reasons why I left was because I was searching in vain for ownership. And for someone who has built something from the ground up, created IP, created the logo, designed the restaurant, put all of the food, created all the food, and to not get anything in terms of sweat equity, that happens so many in the brown and Black community, or in a lot of communities. So, and then at the end of the day, you're also your name's on the marquee. So every decision made is your decision, and that's not true. We have people that we have to answer to. And when it became this push and pull of, I want to feed the community, oh, we can't do it right now. I want to do this. Corporate doesn't allow to do that. It was like, well, then this isn't my restaurant. Then I just gotta go. And I think we need to be searching for ownership more than anything, so we can control our own narrative, and we can make sure that what the reflection that we put out into the world is actually what we're trying to put out, and it's not in a boardroom. The decisions aren't being made in a boardroom. They're being made from the individual themselves. And, when we talk about healthcare and, the cost of food and things like that, I don't think it's a problem. I think taxing and rent is the problem in the restaurant industry. That's where the major cost. The food isn't that expensive, and we can charge, $3 more and put $2 of those dollars to the healthcare. That's cool. Yeah. But rent and tax breaks. Why is that the only thing that goes up? The price of onions hasn't really changed in the past 20 years, but rent has gone up substantially. And that's across the board. And that's, what that's called? That's called capitalism. And, mental health isn't looked at in any industry. When you go and buy a bag from Louis Vuitton or H&M, they don't tag on a mental health 3%. If they did, you'd be flipping your shit. Most of the country would. I mean, I think our industry, if you work in the food and beverage industry for at least a year, your mind has changed on the way you treat people. So it's a little bit different. But I think majority of the country would be like, why am I paying for this? The corporation should be paying for this. And people think that when they come into a restaurant, they see a busy restaurant, they think it's dollar signs. And a lot of that money isn't going to onions, it's going to rent and taxes. Mm-hmm. So that's what needs to change. But we live in a capitalistic nation, and we all signed up for this. So we also need to look in ourselves as to why we're in this industry and what we really want to achieve. And are we going to drink our water and mind our business, or are we going to fight for something that we can actually change? And if we don't have the answers for it, I think we need to be very careful of what we're advocating for.
Okay. Thank you. Before we leave, one sentence left from each of you about your hope for the future. What can you think? What do you want to see? What is your hope for the future of this industry, either short term or long term? Beverly and Johnny, do you want to start?
I mean, I hope that everyone who dreams and works hard can achieve their dreams. I mean, just as simple as that, that it shouldn't be that because of your race or color or gender or sexual preference or whoever you are, whatever your difference should never get in your way. And I hope that we can work towards that equality.
Johnny?
I just want, just speaking to everyone, I want you to succeed. And I don't want anyone's dreams to be broken. I know life goes on, but man, we worked so hard to get to this point, and we all did, all of us here today. I mean, think about all the work that you put in. I hope you succeed. I want you to succeed.
Tanya?
I don't want the challenges to be things that can really be changed, that could really, somebody can make a phone call, somebody can make a difference. There are so many things that are beyond our control, such as disease and weather, and fires. But there's so much change that can happen just by everybody making an effort to make a difference.
Kwame?
I want a new president.
And on that note, thank you all, 4 of you, for engaging, for your honesty and your insight today. I'm really grateful to have spent this time with you. I cannot wait to see you all in person in your restaurants, to eat your food again and pay double or triple for it, happily. But more than anything, to keep hearing from you and learning from you and looking to you all as leaders, because you truly are. And I'm so grateful for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allclad is the proud sponsor of the James Beard Foundation Outstanding Chef Award. Chefs in kitchens across the country will tell you that with a lot of determination, passion, and ingenuity, great things are possible. Those qualities are what serve this industry now, as it looks to rebuild a better and stronger community for all. The country's outstanding chefs and promising protégés have pivoted in countless ways this year, providing hot meals for frontline workers and satisfying our desire for a sense of community above all else. Because outstanding is so much more than critical acclaim or commercial success. Outstanding is about standing up for your community, even when it isn't easy. It's about evolving and reinventing to better serve the needs of those around you. Allclad is proud of its decades-long partnership with the James Beard Foundation and the role Allclad cookware plays in kitchens across the country. Allclad is dedicated to making sure chefs have the tools they need to continue to deliver all kinds of outstanding to their communities.
That was such an insightful conversation with so much inspiration as our culinary community and beyond endeavor to build back stronger and more sustainable for the future. As we reach the final moments of tonight's broadcast, I want to extend many thanks to the James Beard Foundation for the privilege of being with you. I want to give so much love and support to my friends in our Chicago culinary community, especially at Choose Chicago and Illinois Restaurant Association. Chicago is so proud to host the James Beard Awards, and we look forward to seeing you back here next year. In the meantime, let's keep our hearts and hands open and our minds on the work of building unity and peace. Now let's go back to Claire Reichenbach at the James Beard House in New York.
Thank you, Ji, and thanks once again to everyone joining us tonight. Before we conclude this year's awards, I'll offer a few final words. I'm truly thankful to Gail and chefs Kwame, Beverly, Johnny, and Tanya, who took part in that very powerful discussion just now. That conversation, and many more like it, keep our eyes trained on the right issues and the right goals as we step into the future of this organization and this industry. In spite of the challenges we face, or perhaps because of them, we have great reason to be hopeful. Nothing makes that clearer to me than the nimble, inventive, and tenacious ways that so many of our colleagues have pivoted to meet this multi-dimensional crisis. I think we can judge our capacity to survive and rebuild by the quality of those responses. We are also heartened by the work of our colleagues and friends at the Independent Restaurant Coalition. If you've not done so already, join and stand with this organization to support local restaurants. They took the case for federal emergency support for restaurants to Washington back in March, and they've stayed there, keeping the pressure on. You can help them by reaching out to your congresspeople and sharing your own stories as constituents who work in and love your local restaurants. Your voices are powerful as we organize to build back better. And I want to take a moment to thank everyone participating in this evening, our presenters, our partners, and our wonderful MC, Ji Suk Yi, and our friends at Choose Chicago and the Illinois Restaurant Association. Thank you all so very much. And finally, I want to give a heartfelt congratulations to all our nominees in every category. We'll be acknowledging each and every one of them in just a moment, and I hope all of you watching will go and support as many of these local restaurants as you possibly can. So to this year's nominees, you have worked long and hard. You earned this recognition. We could not come together to celebrate in the same way we have done in past years, but that doesn't dim the brightness of your accomplishments. The James Beard Foundation will continue to nurture your passion and honor your contributions to this community. Stay healthy, stay strong, and good night.
Local restaurants are important to our communities because they are the backbone of the individuality and the identity of what makes our cities great. Without them, we wouldn't be able to have mom and pop shops that create a community, and we wouldn't have the ability to connect with each other.
It's people supporting one another, especially in this time. We need to be supporting everybody we can. We really just want to see our community thrive through this pandemic.
It's not just about redoing or coming back or being better than we were, but being something different.
Most of the good art, I think, has come through getting through, like persevering through something. And I think on the other side of this, I think creatively, I'm excited to see things that come from this.
I think the future of the restaurant really relies on the guests having a complete understanding of not only our food systems in this country, but where food comes from and where we need to get when it comes to protecting and supporting our farmers, our ranchers, our fishermen.
I hope that all of our cultures and all of our histories are accounted for, recognized, acknowledged, because all of that informs where we are today. I hope that in that process, we're able to find in our restaurant community a place for all people to feel comfortable.
Maybe we can come out of it as a stronger restaurant community and make the changes to take better care of each other, take better care of our staff. Whether that be through wages or healthcare or just the way that the general atmosphere of the workplace exists.
It'd be great to be able to come out of this and kind of assess how we could kind of take care of our own a little more, take care of the people that work with us and for us, and our brothers and sisters that we come in and do service with every night.
This is not a competition. This is most to help to grow up and to be the best of what we do for living, and do it with passion, do it with love, and do it humble.
Now we have an opportunity more than ever to rebuild the structure, to throw out old models, to rethink the things that worked and those that didn't, and make real, impacting, long-lasting change.
Help keep restaurants open for good.
Yeah!